Hi everyone, Pat here. Hope everyone's having a good day. Welcome to this week's Charting from Blank episode. Thanks to Lex on Twitter for the recommendation. This week we're going to be taking a look at Virtual. Virtual is an AI agent DeFi coin, and recently has had a set of really good moves, both performing well off the lows back from April, and then also obviously it had that rally from October through till January, where it had a crazy run up. It's one of the leading AI agent coins, and I think it is worth looking into and worth looking for a potential entry on it, as I think covering yourself in all baskets is a good area, and I think Virtuals is a good coin to have a spot on if we can find a good trade today. Just to let you know, the group has a 20% discount at the moment. You can find myself there along with many other traders posting daily trades, market thoughts, ideas, and lots more. So the link to join the Discord is in the description, 20% off. So getting right into it, we're going to start on the monthly. This price action for me, it can be cautiously bearish here, based on this sort of complacency shoulder, right? A lot of the time you can see in markets, you get this really large euphoria move, followed by a bottom, which then bounces into a complacency shoulder. So what I like to call as complacency shoulder, or a lot of people like to call a sort of exit bounce, right? So this is the bounce, like anyone that may be trapped up here, this gives them an opportunity to exit, right? And that is just the bearish scenario I can see right now, simply based on this price action. There is a chance, let's say that the market takes a turn for a worse, we top for summer, let's say we don't get the breakout in summer, there is a potential chance that this was a complacency bounce, and we see Virtuals go on to do some sort of bleed out into summer through July into August before bottoming and then maybe legging up again, right? So just be a little bit cautious of this structure, and today we'll take a look at the chart and identify what we would want to see to invalidate this potential complacency shoulder. So that's the only thing that's worth sort of mentioning on the monthly right now. There's not too many levels to work with on the monthly, but just the idea that we could be forming a complacency shoulder. Taking a look at the weekly, we'll mark out some levels here. Okay, marking out a few levels here that I think are worth keeping an eye on the weekly. As we go into the daily, maybe I'll tweak them a little bit, but holding this sort of prior supply area, we sort of flipped this area. I think maybe if we did get a retest in there, that could be a nice place to be a buyer down to like 1-2 on Virtuals. Let's say we continue to bleed out over summer, maybe you could look at buying back down to $1. Obviously $1 is a big whole number, psychological number. I discuss this a lot. Taking a look at psychological numbers in the market is very impactful to keep an eye on them. And if we have that scenario, like I said, that this was the complacency shoulder and we bleed out, maybe looking at buying back down towards this weekly supply into $1 could be a nice place. Otherwise it probably would trade, if we don't hold here, it's probably going to trade all the way back down to like 0.6. Let's go on to the daily. The weekly is a little bit messy. I'm not entirely a massive fan of the weekly chart. Clearly we've got potentially some sort of like meme line being formed here on Virtuals to keep an eye on. I think if you got a close above this sort of like this meme line on the weekly and back above 1.81, like if you got a weekly close back above 181, that could be positive for Virtuals. Now taking a look at the daily, this is definitely a nice area, I think, to be a buyer, anywhere from like 126 down to $1. I think this looks really nice. You have a set of equal lows here that are worth, probably, if we did get a sweep under here, looking at buying into. And as I was just discussing the weekly, you got that meme line, and then you've also got this potential daily breakout as well, right here with a bit of a difficult level. So I think right now this is coming together. The outlook to have on Virtuals here is coming together, based on basically two levels right now. We have one level towards that 181 area that we just discussed on the weekly. I think this is quite important. If we get a weekly close above 181, then a good chance we can go towards 232 and maybe even break out much higher, down to like back down to $4 plus, right? Equally, if this breakout fails and we sort of lock in a bearish retest here, then BTC fails to break out in July, and we start to roll over, I could see a world where virtual sort of drops into July, like I said, maybe putting in that complacency shoulder, bottoming into July, August into 126 into $1, and I think accumulating spot back down towards this 126 to $1 region would probably be the play. This is kind of like the fail safe as of right now. Given the way the market's looking and the signs of Bitcoin looking at breaking out above range highs, I think the best scenario to look for is watching for this daily downtrend breakout with a flip of 181. And if Virtuals gets a flip of 181, what you have is this really nice deviation, reclaim, and like I said, probably goes to take May highs and maybe even back to $4 if it can flip above there. Let's take a look at the volume profile. Quite a difficult place, but good chance that it can between $2 to $3. Okay, to summarize my thoughts here, overall, Virtuals is looking pretty nice. Traded 50% down off the highs in a bull market, kind of is a nice pullback, right? We can see here pullback 35% and bounce, pullback 40% of bounce here, pulled back 40% of bounce. And we're now legged up again, pulling back 50% and potentially bottoming here. So there's two scenarios I like here for Virtual. And the first one would be looking for that weekly close above 1.8 and a reclaim on the daily. If the daily can get a reclaim back above 1.8, then we look for an entry targeting May highs and then even as high as $4. This is option one. The second option for me would be if the market doesn't break out into July and we see altcoins continue to suffer, what we could see is a pullback on Virtuals back down to 126, and I think this is a very nice area to accumulate Virtuals into 126 all the way down to $1. Look for bottom signals on this, standard market structure shifts, RSI divergences, awesome oscillator divergences back towards this weekly supply area, this weekly breaker that we discussed earlier, and then looking at bottoming into 126. For obvious reasons, if 126 didn't hold, I think Virtuals is completely cooked and it will go back down to new yearly lows likely. So consider these two options, and that pretty much sums it up for today's Chart from Blank episode. Right now it's a bit of a difficult place for Virtuals, trading underneath this sort of like weekly and daily level, and trading quite far away already, 35% up from the lows from an area which I have marked now as being a potential area of investment. So keep an eye on that. Hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode. Bit of a faster one, not too much to say about Virtuals right now, and I will see you guys next week. If you do have any requests for next week's episode, then please let me know. Check out the socials in the link below and drop a like if you enjoyed. See ya.